repositioning the Motorola brand. We've talked already about Motorola being in existence for over 80 years, so it's a company with a very long history. We've gone through some of the biggest changes in the industry, and we've been number 1 in market share to now being number 4 in market share. The company's had some pretty dramatic changes over the last few years. Me, Paul's already mentioned, I've worked in 7 different countries for 5 companies over the last 20 years. I know I don't look that old. I'll say that because I'm sure he wouldn't. And it's nice to be back here. I used to work, previous to Motorola, just across the road at Harrods, so it's nice to be back here instead of sunny Basingstoke. So a bit about Motorola. We've been in existence for over 80 years, and some things you probably don't know about Motorola. We invented the TV set. We invented the first two-way radio. We invented the first mobile phone over 25 years ago. We invented HDTV. So we've got a pretty rich history of bringing new innovations to market. And we've already talked about it, but one of my favourite pieces of trivia about Motorola is the fact that a Motorola radio transmitted Neil Armstrong's words from the moon. So, we have a history of innovation, but when we're looking at changing the brand and re-energizing the Motorola brand, one of the things we needed to do is look for a truth. So look for an absolute truth about the business. What's something that we can use that's part of our DNA that we can use to communicate and to position ourselves in a very competitive marketplace? When I was at Harrods, one of the things I was asked to do when I joined Harrods was rebrand the Harrods business. Now, for a business like Harrods, that's pretty much of a challenge because everybody knows what Harrods is. It's an absolute machine. It's the epitome of luxury. So we came up with a strapline, "There's only one Harrods," which had actually been used 4 or 5 times in Harrods' history. And we played on this idea of absolute maximum luxury. To some extent, that was easy, predictable, but it worked. And we're trying to find with Motorola something similar, something that will work but fits with our DNA. And innovation is something that we've been known for the last 80 years in different industries, in different segments, with different customer groups. And some of the devices on here towards the right, if I'd have been in this room 6 years ago and asked you to hold your mobile phone above your head, 75% of you would have had the device, one from the right there, the Razor. We sold 130 million of those globally, which is just phenomenal. And we've just launched the Atrix, which is on the right, which is for a new business, and more of that in a second, has really pushed this idea of innovation again. So it says taking stock, but how do you reinvent a business that's been here for 80 years? A business that's got heritage in a wide group of technologies and has reinvented itself actually 4 times during its history. Well, the key thing there is that we need to reinvent ourselves again. And some of you may know that beginning of this year, we split Motorola into 2 businesses. Motorola Solutions, which is the police radios, two-way radios, and the infrastructure business, to the sexier side of the business, which is mobile devices and the home cable modem business. So on the 4th of January, we were the oldest mobile business in the world, and on the 5th of July, we were the youngest. And the nice thing is, that's allowed us to think about the business in a very different way. Having been here for 4 years, I've seen a real change from the beginning of this year to the previous 3.5 years. We're thinking more like a startup, we're acting more like a startup, and there's a real change to the energy and buzz within the business, which is great. And when we relaunched in the stock exchange, we did it with a bang. So we branded the New York Stock Exchange everywhere where you looked, and it had pretty big media coverage, particularly in the US. So we're well positioned, in fact, to some extent, we're uniquely positioned to link the brand strategy to the business strategy because the world of communications is changing. 3 questions that we needed to answer beginning of this year. We needed a new vision, we had a new company, but we needed new products too. And the word that sort of links everything that we're doing going forward is this idea of convergence. I've spoken about home, which is Motorola's the only mobile company that also has such a wide established home base of customers seeing TV, watching TV in their house through a Motorola device. So this idea of convergence to us is proving to be a reality. And what we're finding when we talk to customers is that they want their content anywhere and everywhere. So the idea that your mobile phone has the same content as your home PC, has the same content as your TV, is exactly what consumers are demanding from us. So going back to the Harrods example, we need to fit with some kind of truth about the brand, some kind of truth about the company. When we were at Harrods, it was pretty simple. Previously, when we had a rebranding exercise at Sky, it was something more of a challenge because Sky had positioned itself as this great technology business, and you had this wonderful set-top box which was free, and you had this beautiful dish on your wall. Well, we tried to call it beautiful, but even we couldn't quite make that one look pretty. But you had this piece of technology which did wonderful things. But the truth with Sky is it's all about content. And we ran a few campaigns where we just showed 30 seconds of content and at the end saying, Sky, the only place you can get this great stuff. And to some extent, we're getting to a very similar place at Motorola. So now the challenge is, how do we redefine the brand? So we've talked about new business. We've talked about we've got some new products. There's a new energy in the company. So we've got the opportunity to take a great technology company and now make it a great consumer company. So this idea that we've been around for 80 years, heritage is a good thing and a bad thing. Harrods being a good case in point, because technology is all about new, cutting edge, innovation, and 80-year-old companies, don't necessarily have that, but we do have something there that lots of the competition don't. Lots of our competition are relatively new entrants, not all, but lots. And you see, being such a volatile industry, you can go from hero to zero and back again in 2 or 3 years. Nokia being a good case in point over the last 12 months, Apple being an even better one over the last 10 years. But we do have an amazing heritage. But our focus needs to be not internally on our heritage, but externally on our consumers and our customers. And what we say here is that technology changes lives, but only when people get to use it. You can have wonderful megabits and megapixels and milliamps and great technology, but until it actually makes a change to the way in which you live your life today, it makes no difference. And we work together with Ogilvy. We've been with Ogilvy at Motorola globally, not only in my regions of Asia and Europe, but also in the US and China too, for the last 4 years. And so we've worked with Ogilvy to try to reposition what we are as a business and what we mean as a business. And we've got Hugh Bailey here with us, who's been really pretty instrumental in helping us to redefine what the business is and going to be as part of the Ogilvy team. We've also worked with Mindshare over the last 4 years, and to some extent, and that's globally, to some extent, those kind of monogamous long-term relationships don't exist that often now, but for us, it's really worked. But looking at the consumer, as we said we did with the agencies, what we learned is that the idea of great technology and innovative and fabulous technology is only good if you can fuse it with understanding the consumer. So we call it deep insight into human behavior. And then, basically, great things happen. And what we found when we talked to consumers is that technology is a double-edged sword. They love the idea of what it can do, but they're scared to death that it's going to lose all their contacts or their photos, or they're not going to be able to make a call because their battery's flat. So you've got to make it human. So you've got to humanize that technology and to prove that we understand what consumers want. So the way we started to bring this new positioning to life, this fusing technology with a deep understanding of consumers, is we started with the product. That was our first step, because that's our truth. And the interesting thing is, when we talked to consumers about what they wanted in products, there was some consistency. And when we got really deep into the lives of our consumers, not through qual research or quant research, but literally spending days and weeks with the consumers, finding out what their pain points were, we found some things that we could bring to products that made a difference. And so the positioning is life empowered. It's not power in terms of what your device does, but power in terms of it empowers your life. It gives you the ability to do things that you previously couldn't want to do and wanted to do. So we said we started with product. We launched 2 products in CES, the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, 7 days after we became a new business in January. And when we were out there, the response was phenomenal. Zoom is the tablet on the left, which is the first honeycomb tablet, first Google Android tablet with a tablet operating system. And on the right is Atrix, which is a phone that turns into a computer that turns into a phone. And when we launched these 2 at CES, we had fairly brave hopes that these were going to be successful. The tablet won the best tablet in CES in Vegas, competing against 79 other tablets. And Atrix won the best handset and the best device in CES. And that's competing against everything from internet fridges to kettles that boil your eggs at the same time. So that's cross-category. So we were really pleased. We were really pleased with the performance and with the first results, because for us, it needs to start with the product. But then we said, how do we take these products and bring them to life? So how do we communicate these products in a way which fits with this merging people science and rocket science into one? So we worked together with Ogilvy. This is a global campaign, but developed out of Europe, out of London, actually, with Ogilvy. And shot in Acapulco. James, who had the joy of shooting this, is with us today. He's just flown in from Chicago to get a free lunch. And, to be with us today. And the key here was we wanted to show how this is more than just another handset. This is something that's exciting, has some energy about it, talks to you like a startup business would talk to you, but also has something different about it. And it's this little product which is called Defy. It's a great product, really happy with it, and it's taken the world by storm, we think. Just excuse me a second, I need a glass of water. Could you just pass me a glass of water, please? Thank you. Sorry, a bit thirsty. So yeah, this is a device that we're really proud of, and it's got something different. As you can see, great screen, great. It's very clear, very easy to read, and it really stands out. And you can put it in a glass of water, which helps. And so we were trying to take, rather than just putting a phone in a glass of water, we're trying to show how your life needs a phone that can do things that your phone doesn't today. And we came up, together with Ogilvy in London, we came up with this idea.
3, 2, 1.
It's a phone that survives being dropped in water, but it's a phone that also survives the party if you don't. And the nice thing is, when we talk to consumers, obviously we did lots of research before doing this, it hit on a truth in the way that showing a phone dropped in a glass of water or talking about waterproof phone or scratch-proof or dust-proof phone wouldn't. So it's again fusing amazing technology. It's a good example actually of where technology makes a difference to the way you live your life. So we talked about, I mentioned that we had some success at CES in Vegas. The next point for us was to try and get that on the street, because CES is very much a trade show. So how do we get that idea that this is brilliant technology onto the street? And we worked together with the PR team, and the key was to try and find out what was the most iconic test, basically ranking of products that we could find in the UK. This was UK based, to try to show that these products were amazing, but in a way that somebody else was saying it rather than us, because everybody can say that they're brilliant, but when somebody else says it, it means much more. So we put ourselves into the product of the year, which is a T3. It's a T3 ranking of the top 100 technology products in the UK. Now, here we were up against iPad, we were up against some amazing competitors, so we had fairly modest expectations about what would win and how we would fare, but we were pretty pleased because the winner was the Motorola Atrix, against some incredible competition, and somewhat counter to some of the other publications that are absolute iPhone fanatics. iPhone clearly was in the top 10, as was iPad, as was Zoom, thankfully. But it starts to position us as bringing the technology element out through recommendation, but recommendation by someone else. Now this is, acknowledge that this is quite a dark slide. This is the front of an Orange store last month in the UK, again, so we have an English language example. But on the left is the Atrix, and on the right is the ecosystem that goes around it. What we found is the only way to really tell our story was at point of sale. This is not the glamorous part of business, and to some extent, talking to people in the advertising world, this is outside the sphere, but until we told the story about what these things could do and how they change your life, at point of sale, in detail, it was just fluff. And so store promotion became really, really important. And so we talk about this idea of intrigue to education. So you get the intrigue through the TVC, and I'll show you an example of the Atrix TVC in a second, but you also get the education. You absolutely understand not the technical details, but how your life gets changed by this product.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, hey.
Motorola Atrix, the world's most powerful smartphone. Find out more at Motorola.com.
So that was an example from Korea, and it's, again, trying to show, not talk about technical specs, but show how this thing fits into your life and does things that you wouldn't expect. And the phone that turns into a laptop that turns into a phone has really cut through. In Korea, there are two fairly big mobile phone companies, LG and Samsung. And this is kicking arse in Korea, so we're really pleased with the results. So it's not just about TVCs. For us, guerrilla marketing is really important. We're a startup business, remember, an 80-year-old startup business. So this is an example from Italy where we've got no money. And we have a Mini that's wrapped as a Zoom Mini. So people walk around with a tablet, beautiful people, which helps in Milan and Rome. And they basically jump out and mob the businessmen walking past, and for some reason are very persuasive at getting people to demonstrate the device. And this cost us, start to finish, cost us $25,000. So it's had some impact. Has this got us to threshold media? Not by any wild stretch of the imagination. But it's again thinking like a startup rather than just a big business. And the nice thing is, even where we do have some money in the UK, this is a Zoom launch in the UK, sometimes thinking like you have no money is a real good way to push the boundaries and do something different. And this is an example which is with Carphone Warehouse. They came to us with the idea because we'd just done the brand presentation about being sparky and showing how technology changes your life. And they said, we'd like to do a video that shows how you use this 3G Zoom because we just think it's something special, and they had the exclusive on the device. So we said, fine, again, circa $25,000, and this was the outcome.
Hi, I'm Richard at the Carphone Warehouse, and I'm going to demonstrate the new Motorola Zoom 3G tablet. It's got Android 3.0 Honeycomb, a full 10.1-inch HD display, Adobe Flash Player, a dual-core processor. They say it's really good out there in the real world. So, why don't we give it a proper test drive? Yeah. Come on, Shay.
Okay. Let's go. Hey, Shane, check it out. There we are on Google Maps. We're online with 3G. We know it works really good for motorbikes. So why don't we give it a go on a Segway? Shane, you serious, mate? Obviously this is an important one to know about. YouTube on a Segway here, Shane. But what about on a speedboat? Woo! I'm on a Thames when I'm multitasking on a speedboat. What about if we try it on a horse? Is this a good time to tell you about the 150,000 angle? No, it's not. It's definitely not. And what about doing it on a rally car? Oh yeah! Let's get a video and I'll never believe us back in the office.
Oh, go on, mate, look at that. That's awesome.
We now know it works at speed. Let's see how it works on a playground seesaw. Reading an e-book. Oh. Yeah, I'm fine. It's got a call coming in. Hang on. Oh, hi, Ryan.
Hey Richard, how you getting on, mate?
Yeah, all right, mate. Not too bad. Absolutely brilliant, actually.
Don't have too much fun.
Okay, mate. We've got to go. I'll see you later. Okay, well, I reckon that means we've got enough time to have a go.
The wing of an aeroplane! But it's still got 3G signal as well! Oh! Let's get back on it!
Right. Right. Well, I think we've shown what this baby can do, so nice one. Cheers, mate. All right, boss. Where you been? I've been waiting all day for you.
So, I've talked about how we're an 8-year-old business. We've got technology as part of the heritage, about how we're rebranding the business with a startup mentality, fusing technology and a deep understanding of the consumer and taking that to market. I've talked about how it's not all about the TV ad, that it's about looking at a 360 view of what the consumer sees from product through mass market communications through to virals and things that are on the street activation, including retail. We're excited. We've got 8-year heritage. My hope is that I or my grandson is stood here again in 80 years telling you about how we've redefined ourselves another 4 times. So thanks for your attention. If you've got any questions, I'd be happy to take those now.
Hi there. Thanks very much for that. It's very interesting to see. I'm Tim Flagg. I'm from Inc. Mobile. We're a startup mobile manufacturer. So it's very interesting to hear some of the references to acting like a startup. I think one of the things that I was really interested to know more about was the research. You talked a little bit about the fact that qualitative and quantitative isn't the only way of really understanding your consumers. You actually talked rather intriguingly about spending quite a bit of time with your consumers and you know, it sounded like almost embedding yourself in there. I was just wondered whether you could talk a little bit more about that and explain what that meant.
Yeah, for sure. We ran something that we call, and other people use this term as well, ethnographic research. And what that meant is that people from within the business, as well as researchers, embedded themselves in the consumer's life. That could be 1 day, that could be 2 days, that could be for a couple of hours, but seeing how they use the device and seeing what the pain points were, which was the real learning actually, but also asking what they wanted from a device going forward. It's where the idea of life-proof came from. So it's where the idea of a waterproof phone that looks like a brick doesn't do me any good, but if you could do a phone that looks like a phone, and actually I can drop it, I can scratch it, I can drop it in my coffee, it still works. That's where that idea came from, just understanding a consumer. And some of the interesting things that came out of that, we sat with one lady in the ethnographic research, in London actually, and we said, it was me, her and a researcher, and we said, just give me an idea of how you use your phone. She said, I do this and I do that. And then we said, just imagine for 1 day, you leave the house without your mobile phone. I was sat across from her and she said, No, I don't want to do that. I said, no, just imagine you leave the house, you leave your phone at home. And she broke down into tears. She was literally in floods of tears. But what you realise from that is that this is something quite special. That if you can connect on an emotional level rather than a functional level, and lots of our competitors are more towards the functional side of the spectrum than the emotional side, you can actually cut through, because people feel that way about their device if they don't necessarily feel that way about their brand, with some exceptions, of course.
Yes, I'm Bob O'Weiler from Kodak. What I'm really interested in is, right now you've got a really killer competitor with Apple, and your products are fantastic. And talk to me a little bit about how do you drive a wedge and differentiate from that, you know, very dominant market-making competitor?
Yeah, very good question. Now, Apple have, it's a machine. They've got great products, amazing marketing, phenomenal, amazing channels to market, so they've got lots of pretty big building blocks to make a hugely successful business. Every business has its Achilles heels, and we're really confident about what we are. So we're not about knocking gaps in our competition, but there are things that we can do that they can't. Now, we're not going to go from our market position to overtaking Apple overnight, but by being quicker on our feet, and that might sound incredible given who we are, but we are quicker on our feet. We develop quicker, we launch quicker, and we're much more segmented in the way in which we go to market, because we can be. We have a portfolio of 50 products and they have far fewer. That we are starting to make a difference, and it's about one step at a time, but we are starting to see the brand scores are improving, the bottom line's improving, and we're starting to win on some of the criteria that actually makes a huge difference, like listens to me as a consumer and produces things that are different. So it's a long journey and small steps, but we are starting to see some encouraging signs. Flash is a great example where there are little things where, without saying we have Flash and our competition don't, people know that the experience with a Motorola device in some instances is better than it could be with an Apple device.
Daniel Green from MTV Viacom. A similar question actually, just on the research front, is Henry Ford of Ford Motors was famous of saying that, I'm paraphrasing here, but if I asked my customers what they wanted, they'd say a faster horse. Rather than a car, as it were. So for you, you've done this ethnographic research. So did you find it quite hard to sell it internally, because obviously you're accountable to your seniors? Was it quite hard to say, look, here's some sort of lower tier, smaller numbered data that I've got? How did you push that forward? How do you push that up?
Yeah, it was pretty simple. We just didn't tell them. It's much easier. We did it, and then we showed the output. Now, the interesting thing from that was, it's not about faster horse, because if we'd have asked consumers and they did say faster horse, they say I want a larger screen. I want a larger screen that I can watch my TV on, but that fits in my pocket. So unless you get bigger pockets, that's not going to happen. But what they did say is, I have this problem. I have this problem that my battery goes flat at 4 o'clock. I have this problem that I drop my phone in a cup of tea. I have a problem that I've got to take a laptop and a phone and they don't talk to each other. So you could find out what the problems were and then go away and fix them, but you couldn't necessarily let them do the product development for you. But that was, again, a very good question.
Anna Reeves, CBS Outdoor. Inevitably, you will often get comparisons drawn with Apple and so on. And I think what Apple have been very successful at doing is creating a culture. So I guess my question is, to what degree do you guys consider culture as being a really important, creating a culture as being an important part of your brand strategy?
Yeah. Well, if we're going to be a desired and a desirable product going forward, it's really important, particularly when you link it to the idea of content. So where content is a conduit to get people talking to each other, particularly around social media. So it's really important. Do we have all the answers to that? No. We do know that that's something that we do need to start to engender, and it's more than just a product. That's the thing that we're really starting to learn over the last 6 months, that Products are really important, but you need to do more. And in today's environment, with such a competitive industry, phenomenally competitive, you have to do more. So again, very good point.